Hello, this is Christoph with Kaiserworks presenting updates to Axiom Play. We're looking here at the site plan, and I'm going to show you two different versions of the site plan. But starting over here in the left-hand corner of the screen, we have our play area as it was previously shown, and we're showing the actual play equipment as this dashed line right now. Keeping this somewhat vague, I'll show you an elevation as well, but we have two different companies that we're talking to, and we're optimistic about being able to develop something for this, but we're using this as a placeholder currently. This is the deck as we previously showed, except we've scooted the southern boundary of that deck slightly north, and we're populating that with lounge chairs and these two community tables. A little bit different than what we discussed in the last meeting. We're showing the kitchen located here as we discussed, but we're suggesting not doing having a wall here with a pass over. Creating any sort of boundary edge on this wall feels like it's closing it off to the activity in the rest of this yard, and so we're trying to keep this as open as possible, and also building this deck low so it's not so much an obstacle as you approach it, but it's very, very close to the decomposed granite ground plane that's adjacent to it. Moving further west in the scene, we're showing a particular setup. This would be for a large community gathering event. We have our fire pit and lounge chairs that are in this desert garden directly north of this area. And here we're showing a line of tables that are put end to end, sort of cloth and flame style. And in this case, they meet this fixed table that sits at the street edge. And I'm going to show you two different versions of this. This version here runs parallel to the street and then actually has a soft radius curve that stops right here at this line. And at that point forward, depending on the occasion, this rolling gate would either be pulled forward, and that would be the end of it, and it would simply be this very interesting sculptural, most likely concrete table that we're showing that has a bench on one side, has a bench on the street side, and then on the back side we're showing chairs, and that gives you the ability, if you're simply serving from this table, you could have people standing at the back edge of this table serving people that are lined up, or sitting on the front end of this table. The fact that we're not putting concrete benches on both sides just gives you some flexibility. But the gesture we're showing here with this curve is one of sort of ushering in or an invitation into the site, and that can be made literal by having these movable, presumably wood tables that dock onto it. And so we thought this was a really nice gesture, and speaks to what you're trying to do from a community aspect in a very tangible way. And this next slide, before I move along actually, so the kitchen that was previously here on the north edge of the site has been removed, obviously located down here. That solves a number of different issues for us, and we're showing these community tables as they were previously shown on that end of the property. And moving to this next slide, the only difference here is the way that the table is detailed. In this case, this is simply one rectilinear move, which works as well, and you can have these tables that dock onto it or not. But in either scenario, we felt that when phase two, when the building of phase two happens, that table could interact very interestingly and nicely as a sort of invite, sculptural. I think this wants to be detailed like an art piece, and what we had talked about in the last meeting was having potentially even verbiage or a quote or scripture that's cast into that concrete table, and whether that's pure rectilinear form like we're showing here, or with the curve. I think both of those can work nicely with our phase two building addition. This next slide is simply a blow up of the playground area, the proposed deck, and then this kitchen element that sits out, that again, echoing what may be happening in the table out there. This also is just from a pragmatic standpoint. You can approach from the north or from the west and have a counter that's receiving you. And this last slide here is again our elevation, showing the shade structure and an indication of this larger play equipment move that we're very excited to dig into. Thank you very much. We look forward to your thoughts on this.